What is going on, guys? Today I got your top 5 best SMGs in Warzone. If you guys paid attention to my last video, that was the top 5 ARs in Warzone. But today we have top 5 SMGs, and starting it off today, we have the Armaguerra. Muzzle will be going with classic recoil booster. Barrel, you can kind of go a little bit crazy here, but I think that overall the best barrel after the new update is the Body 315 C2. You could go for maybe the 570. The only thing is sprint to fire speed and body damage does drop. Emirto is kind of good, but I feel like there's a little bit less, too many negatives with the movement speed. I just think the body overall is a lot better. Next, optic. This is also preference as well, but I personally like slate reflector a lot. That's definitely like default for most of the Vanguard weapons. For foregrip, I would say that Carver is the best to go here. I mean, you could go hand stop maybe for that recoil control. You could maybe go the steady grip as well, but I like the Carver grip more. There's a little more positives to it. Get a little more vertical. Because the Armaguerra does have a little bit of a jump to it. And yeah, you can go Carver there. That's my personal thing there. For the mag, I would say go with the 55 round here. You could go for the 65 or 64 round 8mm, but I think there's just way too many negatives. I mean, you got recoil control, accuracy, movement speed, aim down sight, and fire rate going down. You're going mostly for TTK here, mostly honestly with probably all these SMGs. So I think the 55 is just the better overall because you keep the fire rate that comes with the gun. Ammunition, I'm going to go again lengthened here. Gets his bullets there faster. Stock, I would say the SA folding is the best one here. Sprint to fire speed and movement speed. That's always great for strafing and everything. And I mean, it's the best overall. I mean, most of these are just for a little longer ranges, but it just decreases your mobility by a lot. So there's really not a point. For our rear grip, I'm going to go with polymer here. You get flinch resistance and accuracy and recoil during sustained fire. You're always going to be shooting this thing so much over just quick constantly. So I think that's the best grip to go there. Perk 1, I'm going to go ahead and go hard scope here for recoil control. And perk 2, I'm going to go with quick for that sprint speed. Overall, very good SMG. This build can also work in Rebirth as well, which I'll probably bring up again in a next video for our Rebirth setups. But yeah, there's the first one. Now up next at my number 4, I do have the Marco. Very good SMG, laser-like. Has a little more recoil control than the Arma. That's why I have it a little bit above. The TTK is, I almost feel like a little bit matched up with the Arma. The Arma might win a little bit in that, but for recoil control mainly, I feel like this comes out a little more on top. Attachments, I will be going with the recoil booster. That's pretty much the basic, like I said before with the Arma. For barrel here, there's some options, but I think that the 342 is the best so far. You get highly controllable bullet velocity, flinch, and the weapon bob or whatever. And yeah, it's with this barrel, I think it just makes it ultimately an absolute laser. For grip, I would say go with the skeletal here. That gives you replacement of that aim down sight speed from that barrel, and a little more movement speed as well. So you definitely want that on there. Magazine, I would say go with the 8mm Nambu 64s there. A little bit less bullet penetration and bullet velocity, but I mean, the drawbacks I feel like aren't that big considering the amount of laser it comes out of this gun. You know what I mean? It's not like it's a big deal. To replace some of that bullet velocity, I'm going with lengthen again here on the ammunition. Optic, totally up to you guys, but I would say the slate reflector is the best overall for me personally. For the stock, I'm going to go the Emirto FR. Gives you movement speed, recoil recovery, initial firing recoil. Gives you more of that aim down sight speed than you missed a little bit on some of the attachments. But I think it's very good. Accuracy and recoil during sustained fire, not really a big deal because this thing is already a laser as it is, so it doesn't really matter. The rear grip, I would go with taped here. It gives you the aim stability, more movement speed, sprint to fire, stuff you definitely want to see in an SMG build for Vanguard. There might be a few other options. Possibly could maybe go granular, but I feel like granular is just a little bit downgraded version. As you see there, you lose a little bit of mobility with granular than tape. So I would just go with taped overall. Perk 1, I would say go unmarked. It gives you position concealment when you're firing. So kind of like subsonic ammo. And I would go quick again here for that sprint speed, so you can rotate really fast. Marco, very good gun, like I said, laser like. TTK is pretty good. And yeah, that's my number 4. Now up next, this is where we start getting a little bit of the juicy guns, the PPSH. Honestly, one of my favorite guns. It's sitting at my number 3, but it is one of my favorite guns. The only reason it's sitting at my number 3 is a little bit of the control, or else it'd honestly probably be number 1. But I mean, there are a lot of builds you can do with this gun, but for me, this is the personally the one that I find the most success with. Muzzle, like usual, we're going with the recoil booster. Definitely going to help a lot too with a little bit of the control as well. Doesn't really say it's more like a hidden thing, but I mean, also fire rate. This gun already has an amazing fire rate, but the more fire you have, the better TTK it is, and the TTK on this is already insane. The barrel, it did get nerfed, but to be honest, it's still pretty damn good. I mean, all these are pretty much like with each other, but for me, I feel like the BO3 is still pretty damn good. You could go with the Zach if you want that longer range, but you do lose obviously movement speed. You could go maybe the light as well, kind of like the lesser version of the Zach 300. But for me, I would go with BO3P over here. For the underbarrel, I would go probably Carver, I would say. Carver would be the best one here. You get the vertical plus the hip fire. Absolutely sweetness with that hip fire as well. Especially that helps a lot with the BO3. Even when you aim down sights though, it's not even that bad, I think. Magazine, we do know that the Nambu 64s did get nerfed. You could go for the 71s. Gorenko 71 round, but I still think the Nambu is pretty good. And I mean, the fire is also a plus as well. But you could go for the 71s, but I don't really like the slow reload speed. It's not too slow, but I think it's a little too slow for my taste. So I would still stick with the 64 round Nambus there. For ammunition, I would go with lengthened again. Lengthened's kind of like my go-to so far. Optic, like I said, totally up to you. You could go the Kovalevskaya, or however the hell you spell, however you say that. The ISO 3Ps, you could go. They're pretty damn good. For me though, like I said, slate reflector is pretty much my go-to. Stock, we're going to be going remove stocked here for that hip fire, that movement speed, and that sprint to fire. Very good, very good. For the rear grip, we're going to be going with Pine Tar on this one. Add a little more hip fire, and you get a little more recoil. Aim down sight speed isn't a big thing to be a negative on, considering most of these are for aim down sight speed and just speed in general, especially strafing. But yeah, so perk 1, I'm gonna go tight grip. That's gonna help you a lot with the control. It did get a little bit of a nerf, but to be fair, I haven't really seen much decline in it as of recent, even though it did get nerfed. And I'm gonna be going quick again on perk 2. So that's pretty much my PPSH best setup, most success, I would say. It still shreds, it's immense. The TTK is absolutely insane still. And yeah, you guys can give it a try. Up next, seeing at my number 2, I have the Blick in here. Very good TTK. I would say, at least in my personal experience, a little bit better TTK than the PPSH. It has less fire rate than the PPSH, but I think it makes up for that with the TTK. Speed also very well, moving around is very good. But yeah, to start off here, like a normal, like I've said, recoil booster is pretty much default. Barrel, a lot of options you can go here. The Carlson 17, I've seen a lot of people like that a lot. It's pretty solid. The Bergenstrom as well is pretty solid. The only thing is you lose mobility. Same thing with the Carlson. You get a little bit of, well, not mobility wise here, but vertical, because sometimes the first blow is a little bit of a jump on the Blicks, and also you lose the bullet velocity. I just find the most success overall with the Johnson 9-inch RMK, so I would go with that. Plus you get more damage range, and that bullet velocity. Underbarrel here, I would be going with Carver. Helps with that vertical. Magazine, I would stay with the 54 rounds. You could go in the 9mm 72s. Reload speed's a little slow for my liking, but you could if you would like. Does reduce movement speed though. That is the only drawback I found. But I really like the 54s. Plus, you get increased torso. Limits you a little bit of the penetration, but I think that's not a big problem, to be honest. Ammunition, I'm gonna go with lengthened here again. Sight, personal preference, like I said, but I think overall the slate reflector is the best one here. Stock, we're going for removed. Gives you that movement speed, sprint to fire, makes up for some of the aim down sight speed lost. Rear grip, I would say the taped is the best one overall. There's just no negatives. I mean, you get movement speed, so you get more mobility, and you get that sprint to fire, the aim stability. Very, very good grip to go there. For perk 1, I would say Perfectionist is the best one to go here. And for perk 2, pretty much quick is kind of default. Occasionally, you could do like fully loaded or on hand if you need more aim down sight speed. But I think the aim down sight speed is very good overall so far already on this. So I would say just go quick again. And yeah, that's the Blicks. Very good gun, like I said, overall. Very good TTK. Very good build also too for Rebirth, which we'll mention in the future. But yeah, there's the Blicks. Now, sitting at my number 1, I have the MP40, my favorite SMG so far. And honestly, I think it's the best SMG right now in Warzone. The TTK is insane. Movement is really good. There's practically no recoil. It has a little bit slow fire rate, but that slow fire rate, honestly, it just helps a lot with the really good damage output for that fast TTK. So my build for it that I have is a recoil booster that we're going to be putting on for the barrel. I believe it was the VDD 189 short. That is the best one overall. Pretty much not a huge, honestly, not a huge change from the past setups or setups maybe you guys are used to. There wasn't a buff to it or a nerf to it, so it's pretty much kind of the same. But we got the VDD short. You get your damage range, limb damage. That's always good. Bullet velocity as well there. And for underbarrel, I think the skeletal is the best to go here. Gives you more movement speed, aim down sight speed always is a plus. You maybe could go with hand stop, maybe recoil control a little bit there, but accuracy does go a little bit down. I just think skeletal so far is the best one to go here. For magazine, I would go with the 7.62 Grenko 45s. This was, though technically I guess there was a buff, but it was only to attachment. This did get buffed, and it is insane. It honestly has come a pretty good. It's a very good damage output for this. So I would go with the 7.62 Grenko 45s there. Ammunition, again, I'd go lengthen, get that extra bullet velocity. For that rear grip, I would go with taped here. Gives you all pluses, no negatives pretty much. I mean, you have, maybe you could go with hatched for that flinch resistance, but I mean, I don't really think flinch is that big of a deal with this gun. So I would say taped is the best, very best to go through, especially helps with that weapon swap quickness as well. Like I said before, you know, the slate reflector is my favorite, but it all comes down to personal preference. What you would like to go there. Stock, we're going to be going for the Krasnik 33M folding. Movement speed, sprint to fire, like I said before, always very good with SMGs, especially Vanguard ones. Perk 1, I'll be going with the Perfectionist here. Gives you a little more recoil control just in case you need it. Perk 2, I would go quick here. You could also go on hand for that aim down sight speed if you feel like it's necessary. But for me, I'd rather just do quick. So yeah, there you have it. MP40, number 1 on my list for SMGs. And yeah. So for my last honorable mention, I have the UGR from Cold War. This gun is very, very fun to use. It might not be the strongest thing in the world, although it is pretty strong. And I think it probably could have made my top 5, but and especially in terms of TTK, the TTK is actually pretty good on this gun. It's just very fun to use. But for my setup, I'll be going with Grew Suppressor, I think is what you should go with here. Barrel, I would go for the 10.7 task force. Gives you bullet velocity and gives you that more damage range as well. Also strafe speed, very good for SMGs, like we know usually with the Vanguards. For underbarrel here, I would go with Bruiser for that extra movement speed and a little bit of a hip fire. You don't really need the hip fire, but that movement speed is really what we want to go here for with the Bruiser. I mean, you could go for Spetsnaz if you're struggling with a little bit of the recoil, but to be honest, this thing's pretty much a laser right out of the gate, so you don't really need any recoil stuff. For laser here, I would go with the Tiger Team Spotlight. I think that's the best, honestly, out of all these. A lot of these have a lot bit too many negatives or just don't really help in general, but you do get the movement speed here and aim walk speed as well. So that's very good. Aim stability, by the way, isn't a big thing on this thing. It's very easy to shoot this thing. It's not hard at all. Magazine, go with the explosive fletchets. They are so good. Like, they're pretty fun to use. I mean, it doesn't do a whole huge amount of damage, but I mean, it gives you a little bit of a boost. But they are so fun to use for a little bit of an explosive thing there. And yeah, and I would stick honestly with no sight on this thing. The sight that comes with this barrel is pretty good overall, so I would just stick with iron sights. I mean, if you really want a sight, I would say maybe take off the spotlight and put on, I don't know, maybe like the Microflex LED if you would like. But to be fair, I think the iron sights on this thing are very good regardless. So yeah. So thank you guys for tuning in for this video. That is my top 5 SMGs in Warzone, plus obviously these 2 honorable mentions. If you like the video, make sure to like, subscribe if you're new, and hit that notification bell so you know when I post. And yeah, guys, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see y'all in the next one.